Welcome staff and students to the Northeast Kings Education Center's Remembrance Day ceremony. As we join together today for our Remembrance Day ceremony, we would also like to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded, traditional, and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq.
We may not be able to gather together this year in the traditional fashion that we are accustomed to. However, through this online stream ceremony, our thoughts and hearts will still be joined together in remembrance of those who have served and continue to serve our country. We will remember them.
Our armed forces and military personnel put the country before self. Just 2 minutes before the singing of the armistice to end World War I, Private George Price, who grew up in this area, was killed in Ville-sur-Seine, Belgium. He was the last Canadian to die in World War I and fought to the end to defend freedom, our freedom. He did not hear the bells that rang out across Europe on November 11, 1918, to celebrate war's end. Today, we honor those who understood freedom was worth defending and would fight to the end to do so.
At this time, we ask that everyone please stand for the entrance of our cadets and please remain standing for our national anthem. Thank you. You may be seated.
Good morning. My name is Charlie, and it is a privilege to have this opportunity to lead you all through this moment of remembrance.
War has touched the lives of Canadians of all ages, all races, and all social classes. Fathers, sons, daughters, sweethearts. Many lives were selflessly given. For those of us born during this time, war can seem far removed from our daily lives. Let us never lose sight of the importance of a day like today. I'm Jenica, and I'm honored to share this moment of remembrance with you.
We often take for granted our Canadian values, our freedom to participate in cultural and political events, and our right to live under a government of our choice. By remembering their service and their sacrifice, we recognize the tradition of freedom these men and women fought to preserve. My name is Nora, and it is my pleasure to be one of your MCs this morning.
On Remembrance Day, we acknowledge the courage and sacrifice of those who served their country and acknowledge our responsibility to work for the peace they fought hard to achieve. My name is Claire, and I hope you enjoy this ceremony and take this time to remember our fallen soldiers.
At this time, we will have a slideshow presentation featuring Northeast Kings Education Center's connection to the members of the Canadian Forces. This slide includes a special performance of a Hymn to the Fallen by Northeast Kings Education Center Senior Concert Band. Our last Nkec connection was tied to Emily Prest. Her uncle is our guest speaker today and is sharing his experiences with the Canadian Forces. Please listen to his message that he's sharing with us today.
Hello, Nkec students. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Greg Vanderkloot, and I'm the commanding officer of our Army's 3rd Canadian Division Training Center in Wainwright, Alberta. So what does that mean? That means that I'm the commanding officer of a school, or the principal of a school, similar to Nkec. Only we run basic training courses for recruits as well as leadership courses for other members of the Canadian Armed Forces. So I've been asked by Emily Prest, who's my niece. Most of you should know Emily, to provide a video or a short talk on some of my experiences and what it's like to be a member of the Canadian Armed Forces. So before I do get into those details, what I will say is that I too am a Valley boy. I was born and raised in Nova Scotia, and I graduated from Horton High School in 1995. So I can imagine what some of you are thinking. You're probably thinking, he's a Griffin? Titans are way better than Griffins. And you should be thinking that. Why? Because that demonstrates pride in who you are and pride in your organization. And these are traits that we value immensely in the Canadian Armed Forces. So after graduating high school, I went to UNB in Fredericton, and I actually became a high school teacher too for a short period of time before I joined the Army in 2002. So when I joined, they immediately sent me off to do my basic training. And then I spent 8 months in Saint-Jean, Quebec, between 2002 and 2003, learning French. So I took French in high school until grade 9, and then I stopped. And it's been one of my lifelong regrets because I cannot overemphasize the importance of being able to speak a second language, not to mention our second official language in Canada. So I spent 8 months in Saint-Jean relearning a lot of the French that I learned when I was younger. After I completed my French training, they sent me to Gagetown, New Brunswick, where I completed all of my phase training to become an infantry officer. So what does that mean to be in the infantry? So what I'll say is in the Canadian Armed Forces, there are literally dozens and dozens of trades. Everything from driving tanks in the Armored Corps, to firing cannons in the Artillery Corps, to flying planes in the Air Force or fixing planes, sailing ships, fixing ships. You can work in administrative roles, in warehouses, in supply. There's medical trades, dental trades, and the list goes on and on and on. So as an infantier, what we do is we hold ground. So in most war movies that you may have seen, it's the infantry soldiers that are actually clearing buildings or moving into villages or holding ground. But rarely do we operate exclusively. We always have support with us. So if there's tanks, that means the Armored Corps is supporting us. If there are bombs being dropped, it's either from the Air Force or it's from the Artillery Corps who's behind us in support as well. So that essentially what it means to be an infantier. But the theme that I'm talking about here has to do with teamwork. Much the same as the teamwork you learn as a member of the football team or the hockey team or any club you're part of. We learn from a very young age that teamwork is important and we need to be able to work together. So after I completed all my training, they posted me to the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Canadian Regiment. And that's a regiment that I'm still a member of to this day. So as a platoon commander or an officer in charge of 30 troops, I was fortunate enough to deploy to Afghanistan in 2007 during our fighting years. So very rewarding, but also a very trying and difficult experience. But it was a 6-month tour, and then we came back and continued on soldiering as per the demands of our government. So after my first experience in the battalion, they posted me to Meaford, Ontario, which is a schoolhouse very similar to the schoolhouse where I am here in Wainwright, Alberta. I spent 4 years there training young recruits at a lower level than I do now as a commanding officer. So I returned to the 2nd Battalion in Gagetown in 2011, and I got to deploy again to Afghanistan, but this time in a training role. So my job was an operations officer, which controlled the execution of various courses to train the Afghan National Army and the Afghan National Police. So upon returning to Canada, I again stayed in the battalion for a few years, and then I got posted to Ottawa. So Ottawa, I had the privilege of working in various headquarters, and I got to deploy again in 2018, this time to Iraq. Again, not in a combat role like my first tour, but it was more in a security capacity building role. So what does that mean? That means that I was a planner that worked again as part of a team to help identify areas for improvement in the security realm to help the government of Iraq, strengthen its forces and its capabilities to protect its citizens. So when I returned to Canada, again, I went on more French training in 2017 because much like other skills we learn, like first aid training or a second language or any skill, they're very perishable. So if you don't continue to practice them, you often lose them. So I spent a full year in 2018 to 19, again, learning French. And then I was posted here to Wainwright, Alberta in a command role. So that's really a resume of my career over the last 19 years. What's been integral to my career is my family support. So I have a daughter who's 20, taking nursing in Ottawa, and I have a son who's here with us in grade 10. I had to think there for a minute. Grade 10 in Wainwright, Alberta as well. So what is it like for members or family members, I should say, in the military? Well, what I will say is you are exposed and able to experience many aspects of Canadian culture that you may not otherwise get to experience. So my children have been posted with us through New Brunswick, Ontario, back to New Brunswick, on to Ontario again, this time to Ottawa, and then my son with us here in Wainwright. So lots of friends were met and parted ways with along the way. That can be difficult. But also, like I said, my kids have gotten to experience all aspects of Canadian society, and they're very grateful for that. So I guess what I'll do in the last few seconds of this video is I'll kind of transition into what life in the CAF can bring to a serving member. So for anybody who's watching this and thinking, hey, it may be something I would be interested in, or maybe you've already been thinking about that. What I will say is the Canadian Armed Forces provides an immense amount of opportunity. So I've already discussed the various trades. You can be Air Force, Army, Navy, Special Forces, which sees you posted to all regions of Canada from coast to coast to coast. So all kinds of opportunity. And what comes with this opportunity is job experience, deployments, both domestically and abroad, where you can help Canadians during floods and fires, and assistance with things like vaccines, but also you can help other societies around the world that are in need. And what also comes with this opportunity is education. There is always continual education available to members of Canadian Armed Forces at all ranks. We get paid well in the Canadian Armed Forces. If you want to be rich, maybe you shouldn't join the Army because you will never become rich, but you will always be paid well. You will always be able to provide for your family. What comes with a career of service in the military is a pension, benefits for yourself and your family, so medical and dental. Some of these things may not be important to you now, but I assure you, once you're out on your own as an adult, they become very important. And I guess the last thing that the military provides is, like I said in the beginning, opportunity. So you can see the world and you can bring your family with you. There are international postings, lots of them. You will learn a trade. So you will definitely learn leadership. And I understand that your school offers leadership classes. So what you learn in the military builds on what you learn at Nkec. You can learn a trade. Whether it's mechanic trade, electrical trades, there's medical trades, like I mentioned, there's all kinds of opportunity there. And above all, you will be ingrained with a sense of pride. So I wear the Canadian flag on my left shoulder every single day, whether I'm wearing this uniform or I'm wearing our dress uniform. I have the Canadian flag on my shoulder all the time. And what that does is it instills a sense of pride. Every morning when I put this uniform on, I'm reminded of what I'm charged to do. And I'm charged to represent Canada domestically and abroad, and adhere to the Canadian mandates for our foreign policies as it relates to the military. So an excellent experience, and I encourage you to explore it if it's something you're interested in. So as we move forward from now to Remembrance Day, and we think about the sacrifices that our veterans have made during previous wars and operational deployments to give us the freedoms in Canada, what comes with that freedom is freedom of choice. So you have a choice to go on and into any trade, either in the military or civilian trades you wish to pursue. So I wish each and every one of you luck. Thank you.
In the aftermath of the First World War, the poppy emerged as an international symbol of remembrance. We wear a poppy over our hearts to remember the lost lives, therefore representing the many poppies that filled the battlefields of Northern Europe, where so many gave their lives between 1914 and 1918. Many of those lives included a dear friend of the Canadian Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. Following his loss, he was inspired to write the poem In Flanders Fields.
At this time, you'll have the opportunity to view a special visual art presentation that has been created by the art students of Mr. Cran. This presentation also features a reading of In Flanders Fields by Charlie Gill, an audio recording of a song called Come Home to Nova Scotia, which was composed by Ray Lewis in honor of Remembrance Day and sung by Annapolis Valley Junior Honor Choir.
Do I sing now?
Cry for help.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. In Flanders fields, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from falling hands we throw. The touch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep though poppies grow in Flanders fields and Flanders fields. We shall not sleep through poppies grow in Flanders fields and Flanders fields.
Drawing contest for the senior black and white category is Izzy Boyce. And second place for the senior black and white category is Victoria Weir. Come on up. Congratulations. There you go. Next one. Good. An honorable mention for the senior black and white category is Isidore Ware. Congratulations. Thank you. The first place senior color category is Amelia Turner. Congratulations. Well done. And second place for the senior color category is Ellis Dorn. Congratulations. Well done. Good job. And first place for the intermediate black and white category is Lily Hazlitt. Well done. And second place for the intermediate black and white category is AJ Campbell. Good job, AJ. Well done. And first place for the intermediate color category is Max Seal. And second place for the intermediate color category is Malaya Strong. Thank you. That's it.
At this time, we will have a performance of a piece called Abide by Me, performed by the Northeast Kings Education Center Senior Concert Band with vocals by Ray Lewis. As this piece is performed, we will be laying a wreath in honor of those lives lost in World War I, World War II, the Korean conflict, and Afghanistan. But beyond this, we honor all those who have perished serving our country. We may not know them all, but we owe them all.
We will remember them. They shall not grow old as we, who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Today is the day that's set aside to remember with gratitude and pride all those who served and died for our country and our freedom. We are now entering into a moment of reflection and remembrance. Please stand and remain standing.
Practice like you're actually doing it. Like loud. Like loud. Practice loud, do it loud. So
The Music 10 through 12 class will now be listing the names of fallen soldiers in Canada from 2002 to 2011. In 2002, Richard Anthony Green, Ainsworth Dyer, Mark Daniel Leger, Nathan Lloyd Smith. In 2003, Robbie Christopher Bierenfanger, Robert Allen Short. In 2004, Jamie Brendan Murphy. And in 2005, Braun Scott Woodfield.
In 2006, Paul James Davis, Timothy James Wilson, Robert Howard Coastal, Matthew David James Dinning, William Montague Turner, Randy Joseph Payne, Miles Stanley John Mansell, Nicola Kathleen Goddard, Anthony Joseph Benecker, Francisco Oliver Gomez, Jason Patrick Warren.
Bryce Jeffrey Keller, Christopher Jonathan Reed, Kevin Eves Dallaire, Vaughn Princess Ingram, Raymond Friedrich Arndt, Jeffrey Scott Walsh, Andrew James Eichenboom, David Robert William Braun, Shane Hank Stacknick, Frank Robert Mellish.
Richard Francis Nolan, William Jonathan Cushley, Mark Anthony Graham, Shane Patrick Keating, Glenn Harold Arnold, Keith Ian Morley, David Robert James Byers, Joshua James Clucky, Robert Thomas James Mitchell, Craig Paul Gilliam.
Mark Andrew Wilson, Blake Neil Williamson, Darcy Scott Tedford, Albert Hugh Storm, Robert Michael Joseph Gerard. In 2007, Ronald Kevin McGaney, Christopher Paul Stanix, Kevin Vincent Kennedy, David Robert Greenslade.
Donald Jason Lucas, Brent Donald Poland, Aaron Edward Williams, Alan Maurice James Stewart, Patrick James Pentland, Anthony Mark Klumpenhauer, Matthew Jonathan McCauley, Daryl Jason Preed, Daryl James Caswell, and Joel Vincent Webb.
Stephen Frederick Bazan, Christos Karagiannis, Cole Daniel Barch, Jefferson Clifford Francis, Jordan James Anderson, Matthew Jonathan Daw, Lane William Thomas Watkins, Colin Stewart Francis Basin, Simon Maurice Serge Longton, and Christian Duchesne.
Mario Mercier, Raymond Mark Rockpaul, Nathan Hornberg, Mikael Richard Levesque, Nicholas Raymond Beauchamp, Jonathan Joseph Dion. In 2008, Eric Lab, Hanny Massot, Richard Joseph Renault, and Etienne Gontier.
Michael Yuki Hayakaze, Jeremy Ouellette, James Jason Boyes, Terry John Street, Michael Starker, Richard Stephen Leary, Jonathan Sutherland Schneider, Brendan Anthony Downey, Colin William Wilmot, James Hayward Arnold.
Joshua Brian Roberts, Aaron Melvin Doyle, Dustin Roy Wadston, Sean Allen Eades, Stephen John Stock, Andrew Paul Grennan, Michael James Sedgy, Chadwick James Horn, Prescott Shipway, Robert John Wilson.
Mark Robert McLaren, Demetrios Diploros, Justin Peter Jones, John Michael Roy Kerwin, Thomas James Hamilton, Michael Bruce Freeman, Gregory John Cruz, and Gayton Joseph Ruberge.
In 2009, Brian Richard Good, Sean David Greenfield, Joseph Danny Oliver Fortin, Dennis Raymond Brown, Kenneth Chad O'Quinn, Mark Henny Diab, Corey Joseph Hayes, Scott Francis Ranelli, Tyler Crooks, Jack Bethillier, Kareem Marie Blaze.
Michelle Linda Mendez, Alexander Jacques Peliquin, Joseph Robert Martin Dube, Nicholas Ashley Bulger, Charles Philippe Michaud, Martin Mario Joannette, Patrice Yvonne Odette, Sebastian Joseph Corsi, Christian Bobbitt, Matthew Joseph Pierre Allard, Jean-Francois Drouin.
In 2010, Tyler William Todd Douglas Craig Blake, Kevin Thomas McKay, Jeffrey Stephen Parker, Larry John Rudd, Merton Renee Goudreau.
James Patrick McNeil, Andrew Christopher Miller, Crystal Lee Ann Giesbach, Brian James Collier, Brian Yeh, Neil Kelvin Pixon, Stephen Joseph Leo Martin.
In 2011, Yannick Schirer, Carl Manning, Francis Reginald Roy, Brian Garth Greth. These are the names we will remember them.
Oh, I slept the surely bonds of earth, and danced the skies on laughter silvered wings. Sunwards I climbed, enjoying the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds, and done 1,000 things you have not dreamed of. Wheels and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence, hovering there. I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up and up the long delirious blue, I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark or eagle flew. And while silent, lifting lines I trode, and high as that sensed your face, put out my hand and touched the face of God.
Thank you, Colson Ward and Lauren Evans, for your solemn tribute. Please continue to remain standing during the Nkec Senior Concert Band's performance of God Save the Queen and the dismissal of the cadets.
As our service comes to a close, we would like to thank our fellow staff and students for taking this moment to reflect with us, lest we forget.